What if I told you that every great leader you admire has a secret? Not a strategy, not a talent. A moment where everything fell apart. A moment of complete failure. And that moment? It didn't break them. It made them. Simon Sinek, one of the most influential leadership voices alive, recently said the most successful people in the world all hit zero. They didn't just stumble. They crashed. Lost everything. And that rock bottom? It became their foundation. Think about Abraham Lincoln. Before becoming one of America's greatest presidents, he failed in business, lost 8 elections, and suffered a nervous breakdown. Most people would have quit. But Lincoln understood something others didn't. He understood that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the prerequisite. Every defeat taught him resilience. Every loss deepened his empathy. And when leadership finally found him, he was ready. Not despite his failures, but because of them. But here's what nobody tells you about leadership and failure. It's not just about bouncing back. Researchers call them crucible moments. Defining experiences so intense that they fundamentally reshape who you are as a leader. A CEO loses his company overnight. A startup founder watches her dream crumble after 3 years of sacrifice. A manager gets fired for a decision he believed was right. These aren't just setbacks. They're transformations waiting to happen. So what separates leaders who rise from those who stay down? 3 things. First, radical ownership. Great leaders don't blame the market, the team, or bad luck. They look in the mirror and ask, what did I miss? What can I learn? Second, vulnerability is strength. Brené Brown's research on over 300,000 leaders found that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the birthplace of innovation and trust. Leaders who share their failures create psychological safety for their entire team. Third, the growth identity. Carol Dweck's mindset research shows that leaders with a growth mindset see failure as feedback. Not as a verdict on who they are, but as data on what to do next. They literally rewire how their brain processes setbacks. Let me tell you one more story. In 2008, a young executive named Satya Nadella was passed over for CEO of Microsoft. He could have left. Instead, he spent 6 more years learning, growing, and developing empathy as a leader. When he finally became CEO in 2014, he transformed Microsoft from a declining giant into one of the world's most valuable companies. His secret weapon wasn't technical brilliance. It was the empathy and humility forged through years of not getting what he wanted. So here's the truth nobody wants to hear. If you haven't failed yet, you're not ready to lead. And if you're in the middle of a failure right now, congratulations. You're in the crucible. The leader you're meant to become is being forged right now. The question isn't whether you'll face failure. You will. The question is, will you let it define you, or will you let it develop you? Every great leader chose development. And so can you. If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Here's something fascinating. Howard Schultz, the man behind Starbucks, grew up in poverty in the housing projects of Brooklyn. He was rejected by banks over 200 times before anyone would fund his vision. 200 rejections. Imagine hearing no, day after day, and still believing you have something worth building. Or consider Oprah Winfrey. Fired from her first television job because they said she was unfit for TV. She didn't argue. She didn't fight back. She went inward. She worked on her craft. And she emerged as one of the most powerful media leaders in history. Her crucible didn't stop her. It redirected her. Now let's talk about you. Right now, wherever you are in your leadership journey, there's a pattern. The people who become extraordinary leaders all share one habit. They journal their failures. Not to dwell on them, but to mine them for insight. Write down what went wrong. Write down what you'd do differently. And write down what that failure revealed about your strengths. Because here's the final truth. Failure doesn't make you weak. Hiding from failure makes you weak. The leaders who change the world are the ones who learn to dance with uncertainty. They embraced the chaos. They trusted the process. And they never, ever stopped growing. Let's go deeper. In 1997, Steve Jobs returned to Apple. A company he built, was fired from, and watched nearly die without him. Most people saw a broken company. Jobs saw a canvas. Within a decade, he turned Apple into the most valuable company on earth. What made Jobs different wasn't genius. It was his 13 years in the wilderness. Being fired from his own company taught him patience. It taught him that great products come from empathy, not ego. The failure stripped away everything that wasn't essential. There's a concept in psychology called post-traumatic growth. It's the opposite of what you'd expect. Researchers found that people who experience significant adversity often develop greater wisdom, deeper relationships, and a stronger sense of purpose than those who never struggled at all. Think about that. The crack is where the light gets in. Every leader who changed the world carried scars. Those scars weren't weaknesses they hid. They were maps that showed them where to go next. The wound became their compass. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. 27 years. When he emerged, he didn't emerge bitter. He emerged with a vision so clear and a patience so deep that he united an entire nation. His imprisonment didn't break his leadership. It perfected it, but here's the uncomfortable truth that no leadership book will tell you. You cannot shortcut this process. You cannot read about failure and gain its benefits. You have to live it. You have to feel the weight of things not working out. There is no substitute for the real thing. The ancient Stoics understood this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote in his journal every night. Not about victories. About failures. About temptations he gave in to. About decisions he regretted. He believed that self-examination in the face of failure was the highest form of leadership. So let me leave you with a framework. When failure hits, and it will, ask yourself 3 questions. What did this teach me about myself? What did this reveal about what I truly value? And how will this make me a better leader for the people who depend on me? These 3 questions transform failure from something that happens to you into something that happens for you. They turn pain into purpose. And purpose into leadership that actually matters. Leadership that people will follow not because they have to, but because they want to. Remember, the leaders who change the world are never the ones who avoided failure. They're the ones who walked through it, learned from it, and came out transformed on the other side. Your failure isn't your ending. It's your origin story. Now go write the next chapter. If this video made you think differently about failure and leadership, hit that subscribe button. Share it with a friend who's going through a tough time right now. And drop a comment below. What's the biggest failure that shaped who you are today? I'll see you in the next one.